You know when you're reading a poem and you get this sudden jolt of emotion? Or you notice your eyes are kind of drawn to just one specific word? Well, that's not an accident. That's actually the poet acting like a movie director, using a secret toolbox of tricks to guide exactly where you look and what you feel. So today we're going to open up that toolbox and see how it all works. Okay, so what could a poet, scribbling away in a notebook, possibly have in common with a big shot movie director on a film set? I mean, they seem like they're from totally different planets, right? Well, it turns out they share the most important thing of all, a secret toolbox. See, both poets and directors are absolute masters at telling you where to look, what to feel, and exactly when to feel it. They're basically in charge of your imagination. All right, let's pop open this toolbox and grab our very first tool. We're going to call this one the art of the pause. Just think about a really tense movie scene for a second. Sometimes the most powerful thing a director can do is just stop everything. Now, the official kind of fancy name for this poetic pause is a caesura. It actually comes from a Latin word that means a cutting, which is just perfect, isn't it? It's like the director is literally cutting the film for a split second, right in the middle of a thought, just to make you pay attention. Let's check out an example from the poet John Keats. He writes, "Fair youth beneath the trees." See that comma right there in the middle? That's our director shouting cut. You absolutely have to stop and focus on the fair youth before the poet even lets you see the rest of the scene. He's pointing your brain's camera exactly where he wants it to go. And here's the really crucial part. This is not just any old pause you'd find at the end of a line. That's kind of like a movie scene just fading to black. A caesura is way different. It's like a super quick camera cut. The main scene is still happening, but bam, the director suddenly cuts to a close-up on one specific, really important detail. It's a powerful way of yelling, "Hey, look at this." Okay, time for tool number 2. Every good movie has a soundtrack, right? Some music that sets the whole mood. Well, poems have soundtracks too, but they create them with words. You can think of it as the poem's rhythm, or maybe even its heartbeat. So, for his poem about this fancy ancient Greek urn, Keats chose a very specific beat called iambic pentameter. Now, I know that sounds super complicated, but all you really need to know is that it feels very noble and kind of formal. It's like the poem is putting on a tuxedo for a very serious event. Since Keats is writing about a timeless piece of art, he chose a rhythm that sounds just as serious and grand. And get this, to make it feel extra perfect and structured, just like the beautiful art on the urn itself, he made sure almost every single line had exactly 10 syllables. Not 9, not 11, 10. It's that super strict rule that creates the steady, reliable beat. So what does this beat actually sound like? Well, it's designed to sound like a human heartbeat. Soft, loud, soft, loud. It goes something like this. Da-dum, da-dum, da-dum. It's a very natural, almost calming rhythm that just gently pulls you through the poem. But here's where the real movie magic happens. To create a jump scare or a moment of huge drama, a director will suddenly mess with the music, right? Well, poets do the exact same thing with their rhythm. They build up this nice, steady heartbeat, only to break it for a huge dramatic effect. This next tool is called a trochaic inversion. And all that really means is the poet takes that nice, smooth, da-dum heartbeat and just for a second flips it completely backwards into a sudden, forceful dum-da. It's a totally intentional break in the pattern. And Keats does this brilliantly. He's describing a lover who's frozen on the urn, who can almost, but not quite, reach the person he loves. After all that smooth, da-da-dum rhythm, he suddenly hits us with this line, "Never, never canst thou kiss." You feel that first beat? It's not da-da-dum, it's dum-da. It's a jolt. And this is why it's pure genius. The poet breaks the rhythm of the poem because he's describing something that's broken. The break in the poem's heartbeat perfectly mirrors the lover's heartbreak. The sound of the words literally becomes the feeling of the character. It's so cool. So let's zoom out for a second and see how our amazing poet-director puts all of these tools together to create one complete emotional scene for us, the audience. It's really like a 3-step process. First, they set the mood with that grand, formal soundtrack. That's our iambic pentameter. Then, they use those quick camera cuts, the caesura, to force us to look at very specific details. And finally, for the big emotional payoff, they mess with the soundtrack, creating a jolt of drama with that trochaic inversion. And that's really the most important thing to remember here.
These poetic devices aren't just boring rules you have to memorize for a test. They are the poet's camera, their editing software, and their personal soundtrack. They are active, creative tools used to build a whole world in a very specific feeling, right inside your head.
So the next time you pick up a poem, don't just see the words on the page. Try to look for the camera cuts, listen for the soundtrack, and definitely pay close attention to those moments where the director is trying to surprise you. Now that you know some of the secrets, what kind of movies will you find hidden in the lines?